Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. There are 7.7 billion people alive in the world today. And each person has a birth story. Tonight, I'm going to share one of those stories with you. My youngest daughter, Susie, was pregnant with her first child, and the due date was August 10th. She had some complications, such as a few years prior she had had a blood clot in her arm, so she needed to be on a blood thinner through the whole pregnancy, so she had to give herself shots of a blood thinner every day because the oral blood thinners aren't good during pregnancy. And she had morning sickness the entire time and was lightheaded, felt like passing out all the time. And they never found out why. Probably her anxiety, she got it from me. Anxiety will make anything seem worse than it really is. So that she went to the emergency room a few times thinking she's gonna, pass out at any time. And then she has a slipped disc. So as she got bigger and bigger, she had more back pain, and then ended up getting shooting pains into the pelvic floor, and ended up not being able to work anymore. She was forced onto bed rest and was pretty much going nuts being stuck at home. Toward the end, she ended up with high blood pressure, so the doctor decided she needed to be induced early. So on July 20th, a Saturday, she called and said, "Mom, they're admitting me today, so if you and Dad want to drive up to Las Vegas, you can stay in our apartment while we're in the hospital." But they said to expect a 2-day labor. And I thought, oh my gosh, a 2-day labor? That's insane. But I guess it's common when they induce you. So we drove to Vegas, and when we got there, she was having contractions that were 3 minutes apart. However, she was only dilated to 3 centimeters, and if you're not familiar with the birth process, you have to be dilated to 10 centimeters for the baby to pass through the birth canal. So she had a ways to go. So by Sunday morning at 4 a.m., she was having contractions 2 to 3 minutes apart and couldn't handle the pain anymore. So they gave her an epidural. Do you want an epidural? Sure, yes. Get rid of the pain. If you're not sure what an epidural is, it's a shot of anesthesia into the lower spine to numb the body from the waist down. Okay, so then her legs were numb and she was freaking out like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to walk again? It's just a really weird feeling. But she could still feel the contractions on half of her abdomen. But the epidural did take away the pain for the most part. Okay, so when she sent the text about the epidural, I didn't see it right away. She actually tried to call, but I didn't, so she sent a text because I was sleeping. I didn't answer. Then I got up only to discover the dog had gotten sick through the whole apartment. Oh. Diarrhea all over the carpet and the entryway and even in the crate, the poor dog. And I happened to have stepped in it without realizing it and tracked it across the living room. So while Susie's labor progressed like a sloth in slow motion, I spent hours cleaning the carpet and the tile and the dog crate. And yes, I still can smell it. But it did help pass the time. By 9 a.m., they started Pitocin in her IV to increase the contractions. Well, by that afternoon, the contractions were 2 minutes apart, but she was still only dilated to 3. The vein blew in with the IV, so they had to put it in her other arm, and her arm was swollen with the fluid backed up. And so, but they put it in the other arm. By Monday morning, July 22nd, Susie hadn't slept hardly at all. the whole time. But they said that they were going to use a balloon thing, I hadn't heard of this, to help get her dilated more. And they would check her in 12 hours to see if it hopefully got her dilated to 5. Monday night, they checked her and the balloon worked and she was dilated to 5 centimeters. Yippee-ki-yay. So they decided to get some sleep before the hard labor kicked in. Active labor is not until you're 6 centimeters dilated. Tuesday morning, July 23rd, Brett called me at 7:35 a.m. and said her water broke on its own and she was dilated to 7 centimeters. I got a text at 9 a.m. saying she was dilated to 9 centimeters. And we're like, oh, thank God, this baby is finally going to be born. At 9:45, Brett called and said, Susie wants you here. Can you come to the hospital right now? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. She actually wants her mom there. So we hurried and got to the hospital. I got checked in at the nurse's station, and the nurse said, hold on, hang on, you just wait right there. And she went and checked and just make sure I could come in. And they said, yes, her mom can come in. I went into the room only to find poor Susie at the end of her rope. The epidural quit working. It wore off. She had built up an immunity to it, a tolerance to it. Fentanyl. Cannot believe it, but it was only from the waist down. It did not go through the baby's system. Okay, she felt the full-blown contractions and had tried to push for 10 minutes and gave up. Said, forget it. I want a C-section as soon as possible. I can't handle it. She couldn't tell if a contraction was starting or stopping. It was like one continuous contraction pain. She was losing her mind and like she was crying. I felt so bad for my daughter. And the nurses tried to talk her out of it, but no, I'm too exhausted. I can't do it. Just give me a C-section. So the nurses said, okay, if that's what you want, we'll do that. They got her ready, and they went out, left the room, and while they were gone, I said, when I had you guys, when I would bear down, the pants didn't hurt as bad. And she said, well, what's bearing down? I said, it's pushing. When the nurses came back in, she said, screw it, I'm going to try to push again. So they said, okay, you can change your mind. And so she started pushing. And all the nurses, when she started, we all counted. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And take a breath. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and take a breath, and then again, and the energy, the excitement, it was like coaching this poor woman who is at the end of her rope to have enough energy to get this baby out. Okay, so this went on for probably an hour. She threw up 4 times in between. She was in so much pain. Anyways, the baby's heart rate dropped to 50, and if it gets below 100, that's dangerous. So the doctor applied what's called a vacuum to the baby's head to help pull him out. The baby was born within 10 minutes after the vacuum was applied. And so on July 23rd at 11:38 a.m., Noah made his debut entrance into the world. He weighed 5 pounds, 15 ounces, and he measured 19 inches long. Everything worked out. The baby's beautiful. The baby is healthy. Susie is recovering and she's fine and still not getting much sleep. I just want to leave you with this thought that of 7.7 billion people in the world today, there is a birth story for each of those people and for all the billions that came before, including each one of you. So I just want to say cheers to being born, to life, to living, and to each day, which is a gift for each of us, fellow Toastmasters.